Hi guys, welcome to my first trimester not vlog. So my original intention, whenever I would daydream about pregnancy, which I have been doing for years, if you're new here and you're not familiar with my journey, this has been an ongoing process. What a journey it has been. So this has been a 2 years in the making video. I have sadly had 2 miscarriages on the way to this pregnancy, and I, throughout this process, would just daydream and fantasize and think about all the ways that I wanted to celebrate and just make this the most special experience that it could possibly be. And now, being 12 weeks, spoiler, I didn't vlog the entire time, but now being at the end of my first trimester, there is just so much that has been different and so many things that I anticipated doing or anticipated having the energy to do, or just having, a lack of anxiety that would allow me to do these things. It's just been so vastly not what I expected. And in so many ways it's been better, in so many ways it's not been worse necessarily, it's just been different. So I just wanted to talk about it. So my original vision was to document the entire thing and have this amazing video montage of just my whole experience and telling my family and my husband and our ultrasounds and just everything. And I didn't do that. And let me tell you why. Let me give you a little backstory. There's also podcast episodes about this if you ever are interested. I no longer do this podcast, but it's called Our Non-Toxic Podcast. I'll write it out here for anyone who wants to look it up. I have numerous episodes that detail the nitty-gritty details of our journey, start to finish, both miscarriages, if you have any interest in that or you think you would find some kind of camaraderie or whatever, it's up. But the very, very condensed version is that I got pregnant for the first time in October, November of 2023. And that was after just a month of trying, we were over the moon, and I had a miscarriage pretty much just a week after finding out. So started bleeding. That's how I found out. It was very, very traumatizing for me, being someone who was blissfully naive in the world of trying to conceive in pregnancy, and it was just very jarring. I then went on this journey of working with doctors and not working with a specialist initially. I got pregnant again the following July and ended up having a miscarriage. So the tests were good, everything looked normal, and when we went to an ultrasound, there was no heartbeat. So at that point we were told, you need to wait to miscarry, or you'll be given something to speed the process along so that you don't develop an infection, which is obviously very traumatic. So I had 2 different ways of finding out about my non-viable pregnancies. One was a very traumatic trip to the bathroom, which I will never forget. Got a smile through the pain. And one was thinking everything was normal, finding this false sense of security because I wasn't bleeding and wasn't experiencing the same symptoms as the prior experience. So I thought I was in the clear, went to the ultrasound, found out this was not a viable pregnancy. There was no heartbeat, and there was the sac and everything, nothing was forming like it was supposed to. So it wasn't just a lack of heartbeat, it was the lack of all the structures that would indicate a viable pregnancy. So 2 different ways of being traumatized. It was very multifaceted for me. So when this blessing rolled around, you can understand why I was a little bit gun shy. So the way that I found out, there's been so many hiccups. Like I said, I need to make a full video just about our journey, but there have not been as many months as you would think in this 2-year period that I actually was able to physically get pregnant. And again, I'll just detail that in a different video. So just with different medications, and I went through a stint where I was over exercising to compensate for the deep insatiable sadness inside of me. And then I lost my period. It was my own doing. We reap what we sow. And finally I started getting my cycles back regular early this summer. And then we got pregnant in July. So technically June is when we date the pregnancy. There's all kinds of funky stuff about that. If you know, you know. All that to say, it's July, I have this feeling, and it's not just a feeling oh, I think I'm pregnant. It's just this feeling that I've had that I was thinking of these events in September trips that we had planned, and I was I think I'm gonna be pregnant for those. And I hadn't really had that feeling for years because I hadn't really allowed myself to be optimistic, and in this situation, it didn't really feel like optimism so much as it felt yeah, well, I'll be pregnant for those. And I'm very guarded, especially with this particular situation. I'm not someone who, like I said, allows myself the the simple joys of just daydreaming and thinking that things will be all right. I don't know what this hair is. Oh my goodness. Well, whatever. But I'm not someone who just allows myself to go off on this, hopeful path, and I need to be better at that, and I really have been working on that. But I'm much more like, well, I probably won't be pregnant. So I was not overly positive, but I also wasn't really allowing myself to get my hopes up. So for better or for worse, this particular month, I'm like, well, I think I'll be pregnant by then. I think I couldn't fathom that I wouldn't be. And setting goals for my business and my health, and just everything that I was doing, I was like, well, I think I'll be pregnant by then. I just had this in the back of my head. It wasn't even conscious. I don't think I vocalized it to anyone. Again, due to lack of not wanting to get my hopes or anybody else's hopes up. So I just never spoke about it. And then I took a pregnancy test on a Tuesday and it was negative. And I was like, well, my period's not due until next week. It was very, very premature, but anyone who's been in this journey knows how difficult it is to wait. There's supposed to be the 2-week wait, and I every single time that I thought I could be pregnant, I would be researching online, like, how early could it possibly be? Is it a false negative? When is the earliest you could possibly take a test? What's the strongest brand? So I was being a psychopath once again about this testing experience. Tuesday, it was negative. I was like, okay, I'll test again in a few days. Thursday, it was negative. And keep in mind, because I have done all this testing to figure out what my issue is, we found out that I have a progesterone deficiency, which is very, very common in women, especially in today's day and age. So I knew that my game plan was to find out about my pregnancy as soon as possible, go to my fertility doctor, get a blood panel done, so that if I needed to supplement extra with injections or with suppositories or with anything beyond what I had already been doing, which is the oral supplement, I could do so. So the stakes were kind of high that I find out early, because in early pregnancy, if you don't have the right balance of hormones and enough support for your body, then you will lose a pregnancy. So that was one of the heartbreaking things that we had found out about my first pregnancy. And you can't ever say for sure, but because everything had been looking like it was developing normally, it was just my progesterone that was so low that it was potentially a pregnancy that could have been saved had I been treated adequately. But of course, being so young and so naive and not even knowing what progesterone was, and just thinking that, whenever you decide that you're ready to have a baby, you start trying to have a baby and then you just get pregnant and have one. So there were so many nuances that I just wasn't aware of, but learning that timing could have possibly led to intervention that helped save that first pregnancy, I was like, over my dead body, are we going to miss this first test? I will test every day if I have to. And there have been so many months that I've taken tests and get my period later that day, or I get it the next day or something else. So also, I assume if you clicked in this video, you knew you were signing up for TMI, but this has never been a place of withholding information. So welcome. You're about to be fully immersed in everything that's been happening in my uterus. So I know that I have been overzealous with testing before, but that's why. Is that I never want to miss something, even over a weekend. Like, days are precious in the early days of pregnancy, so I was on top of things. So I tested Thursday, it was negative. And I was like, that's weird. I just kept feeling like I didn't have that disappointment. And at the time, I kind of chalked it up to just being like, well, I've been through this enough times. Like, I'm no stranger to disappointment. This is just how it is. Like, I'm not a person that gets to be happy. This is just like, you take the test, you cry a little bit, you get sad, you get bitter at the next announcement on Instagram, and then you move on. That's just how my life is. That's like what I do. I just couldn't shake this feeling. I was like, that's weird. Like, I know something is different. So I was like, whatever. And the next day, Friday morning, I was like, well, I'll just take one more test, because if it's positive, at least I can go get blood work done before the weekend. Like, what am I gonna lose? I already have to buy a new box of pregnancy tests anyways, because I blew through these once again. And I was like, whatever, I'll just take it really quick. So I took one, and I feel like this is something that I've seen a lot of people say on their videos, and I was like, how do you almost throw the test away before you look at it? But I was at that point where I'm like, it's been negative twice this week. Like, what am I talking about? And my period wasn't even due until the following Monday. So I'm testing very, very early. And I took the test, I'm getting ready, I'm not paying any attention, and I almost went to just go like, okay, it's negative, throw it away. And I picked it up and I was like, there was a line. I should go get the test. It's in my, let me just go get it actually. Okay, so I went and got the pregnancy tests. Obviously I took multiple from my nightstand. So this is the first one, and I don't know if you can tell. Yes, so the line is there. It's very faint, but it's definitely there. And one of the things that they tell you in infertility school, one of the things you just learn along the way is that if there's a line, there's HCG present in your body. So if there's a pregnancy, you're producing HCG. I don't know what it's like it's a hormone, but it's what indicates a pregnancy. So it's very difficult to have a false positive. It's possible. I don't really understand the circumstances surrounding that. Don't quote me on it, but it's possible. It's just very rare. It's more likely to have a false negative if you're testing too early, like what I had. But I got this test, this little faint positive, and I zipped on down to my clinic, got blood work done, did the full panel. Well, first I said, Austin, and I called my husband and he came in and I was like, you see the line too, right? It was not a cute moment. It was not even anything that I thought to record because I, again, had already been disappointed twice prior in the same week. So I was like, why would I get my camera out for this? And it's such a vulnerable thing for me anyways, because I had filmed me finding out for my first 2 pregnancies, and just the emotional toll that it takes to go back through and delete the videos and then be like, well, do I keep them? I don't really see a reason why I should keep them, but it feels wrong to delete them. And I know that my reaction, I knew prior to even taking this test, I knew my reaction wouldn't be this like, oh my gosh, everything's gonna be amazing, this is so perfect, and then like the chipmunks come in and kiss me on the cheek and the sky parts and the sun shines down. Like I knew it wouldn't be that for me because I've just been through too much to be under the impression that this would be a seamless experience. So I never filmed it, and I don't regret doing that because, again, my reaction and my husband's reaction, we were kind of both just like, huh, that's a line. Well, I guess we'll see where this goes, which sounds like a very cynical approach to pregnancy, and it's not that. Like, we were so hopeful and so optimistic, but when you've been through this before, you just know it's so soon. And I knew, you know, there's milestones that we have to hit first. Like I have to even confirm this with a blood test. We have to see if my numbers double in my beta HCG test, which is the initial blood test that you do where you test your HCG numbers initially. Then you test them again 48 hours later to see if they've doubled, which is typically the earliest indicator of a viable pregnancy. So I'm like, we got several days before I can even get remotely excited about this. So, you know, we prayed about it. And I was like, I'm just going to do my best to stay calm, to remain calm throughout this process. Easier said than done. But I think I was just very, very adamant that I wouldn't get hurt this time. And I was like, we're just going to take it one day at a time. I'm not going to start getting attached. I'm not going to, you know, go overboard, whatever. So I went in, I got my blood test done. And with an initial test at my clinic, you do what's called a quad. So you do HCG, progesterone, estradiol, and DHEA. I'm not going to explain all the hormones because you either don't care, or if you do care because you're in this journey, you probably already know about them. So it doesn't matter. For me, the most important things were my progesterone being high enough and my HCG doubling. So I come back in Monday, I get my labs done. We keep doing this. So my initial process was labs every other day. So I go in and get my blood drawn every other day for about 2 weeks. And all my numbers were looking good. They changed a couple supplements. There was nothing really prescription besides the progesterone, and my progesterone was high enough, praise Jesus, that I did not need to do injections, which is what we thought. I was on a decently high dose I still am, of oral progesterone. So I take 200 milligrams every day. I don't know if that's a super high dose or not, but that's what I've been taking. It's higher than I've been previously prescribed, and my numbers have been holding steady. It's been beautiful. It's been all great. So we have since tapered back. I've had a bazillion rounds of blood work done. By that I mean I've had like 20 because, you know, every other day for a while and then twice a week. Now I've graduated to once a week. I get my blood drawn every Monday, and we're just testing for hormones now because you get to a point where the HCG stops increasing by a certain amount and there's no reason to test it because they said that moms tend to panic. And I am one of them. So I have so much information about this pregnancy that it's been difficult for me not to hyperfixate. I'm kind of jumping ahead. So I went ahead and took 2 more tests. One of them's kind of yellowed, which is a little bit unsightly, but you can tell, let me just get I'll just use these 2. So you can tell that the line got darker. That's one of the things that I used to kind of convince myself at home that things were improving, because as you develop more HCG, the line gets darker and develops faster. So I took 3 and then I capped myself and I'm like, there's no point. I'm getting blood work done every week anyways. What's the big deal? So I went to my first prenatal appointment. It was very early, and at this point I've had so many rounds of good blood work, but I'm it's very challenging to explain because there was never a moment for me where I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant. It's been a little bit more every time, but always like, okay, are we good? Is everything good? Because I'm always waiting on something else. So I had my initial rounds of blood work after I found out, and then I had a couple more appointments just to check on my health and my labs and my vitals, and then I had scheduled an initial ultrasound, and they were like, well, we're just checking for heartbeat and also to make sure there's a gestational sac and that everything is developing in that realm. And that was something that I struggled with extreme anxiety over. I had anxiety over the blood test. Like I had severe insomnia the nights that I was waiting for it because I found out that the lab will input the results at about 4 a.m. So of course the nights I'm going to sleep knowing the results will come in about 4 a.m. I'm waking up at midnight, I'm waking up at 1, waking up at 2, waking up at 3. Like I'm checking every single hour to see if the results are in. And then once you get them, I'm like, are these good or are they not good? So it was just very taxing on me because you're already so exhausted. But then the knowledge that these results were coming in just prevented me from being able to be chill. So I struggled with that. And then we had the initial ultrasound scheduled for what we thought was about 8 weeks. And pregnancies are dated based on your last menstrual cycle, but once you have an ultrasound, they can kind of switch up your dates. So I was very excited to have made it to the 8-week mark because that was further than I had made it in the past. So I was going to the same clinic that I had previously found out that we were not carrying a viable pregnancy. And I can't even explain, I was a wreck. Like I felt just so sick to my stomach. It was prior to morning sickness really kicking in, and I just felt shaky. I felt like clammy. I was like, it feels like I'm walking into the setting of one of the worst days of my life. Like I vividly remember every detail about the last time that we went in. I remember what I was wearing. I remember what my husband was wearing. I remember the kind of day it was. I remember everything I did afterwards. Like it was the worst, one of the worst days of my life. And walking back into that took like a level of stealing myself that I did not anticipate. I thought that I would be just, well, we're going back in, we're pregnant again. It was not that. It was a very, very challenging experience for me, and I had been praying nonstop. And you know, the challenging thing with faith is that I had also been praying nonstop the last time that we went in and got bad news. And you know, we as believers, we believe that if what we're praying for doesn't happen, God is still good, and his purpose ultimately is to bring good out of all circumstances. So I was clinging to that, and as dark as it sounds, I almost had comfort in being like, well, if it's bad, I've gone through it before and I can get through it again. So this like worst case scenario thinking in a way gave me more comfort than hoping did, because whenever I was hoping, I was just like getting so attached and the idea of this baby and finally being pregnant and everything else I was so enamored with and wanted so badly that the stakes felt so high. But if I could just remind myself, like, you know what? It's possible that things won't go well, and it's possible that you will be heartbroken again, and you will go through everything that you went through last year and the year before again. And it sounds like that's so backwards, but for me, that gave me a sense of like, oh, well, I've done it before. I survived it twice before. I can survive it again. My marriage has survived it. My faith has survived it. I've done this before. I can do it again. So somehow I get myself to this appointment, and we see this tiny little flicker on the screen, and she's like, there's your baby's heartbeat. And I cried. I had just tears streaming down my face. I couldn't even speak. I was like, thank you, Jesus. This is the biggest sigh of relief that I have ever had in my entire life. So I just felt so, and they had also given me kind of some extra pressure on this one, because if in my prenatal appointment they had explained that some of the best indicators of a healthy pregnancy are your beta HCGs, everything doubling like it's supposed to, and then a heartbeat on your early scans. Those are 2 indicators that this is a good pregnancy. And obviously that's not foolproof, that's like very rudimentary measurements, but I had fixated on this, and I was like, I need to see a heartbeat to know that this is a healthy pregnancy. So I was very intent on that result. So going into it, I was just having so much anxiety, and I was like, I have to do something to show my faith. So this is gonna sound so small and so silly, but one of the ways that I was like acting in faith is I went to Amazon and I bought these little tiny heart magnets for the fridge, because I was like, in Jesus' name, I will be coming home with an ultrasound photo to put on my fridge. And I believe it, and I'm not just gonna pray about it and say it. And I was so sick of my own, like, well, maybe not. There's so many complex emotions in this process. So I bought these magnets, And I was like, I'm not gonna live in this fear bubble of just, oh, well, what if it doesn't work out? What if this? I was like, I know it's a possibility. I know I'll survive it if this happens, but I'm choosing to have faith that we will come home with a little tiny blob on an ultrasound picture. And I'm so happy to report that we did. Let me pull it out. It's right here too. I should have really been more prepared with having my props readily available, but this was our first ultrasound picture, and you can tell they labeled this little blob baby because what if I didn't know? It really doesn't look like anything here. There's just a little blob, but at the time we got this picture and we were like, oh my gosh, our baby's perfect. Look how cute it is. And looking at this now that we've had more updated ultrasounds, I still think this is the most precious thing in the world because of what it represents, but truly there was not much to see in this picture. But I felt so relieved after that. So fast forward. So I'm chatting for a lot longer than I thought that I would. I probably will end up putting this on my Spotify under the podcast channel just so people who had previously followed the journey can keep up with it. Obviously, I'm just talking a lot. I'm really not doing a lot of showing you things. But like I said, I had this plan in my head of going through and like recording all of it. And I have snippets from everything, but I just didn't record at any point because at the beginning, it felt like everything was so fragile and so new that it hurt too bad to think of deleting more footage that I wouldn't get to watch in celebration or like start a first trimester vlog again and then not get to complete it or ever post it. So just filming this now at the 12-week mark is like, wow, we made it. And of course it feels like, well, I should have filmed all those things, but I really don't have any regrets with it because I know how I felt in each of those moments and all that time. I didn't have it in me, whether it was because of the anxiety or because of just how ill I felt, which I'll get to in a second, but I just didn't have the propensity to talk to a camera, and I really don't regret not doing it because now I get to sit and make this video and tell you all about it, and we can just chit chat and catch up, and it's just like old times. So I have a couple notes written down, but I did experience pretty much every symptom that you can. First it was fatigue. Like I just had the worst, like most bone deep feeling of fatigue and exhaustion that I have ever had in my life. And I'm a pretty high energy, high caffeine person. So I'm used to being like, go, go, go all the time. I love to have a booked calendar. I love to be moving. I love long workouts and lots of caffeine, like I said. So immediately finding out that I was pregnant, I stopped drinking caffeine, which I know you don't have to, but caffeine raises your cortisol, which can hurt your progesterone. So I was like, no. So I haven't had any caffeine since I found out in July, and it's now September 16th. So that was challenging, but the hormones, in addition to pretty much quitting caffeine cold turkey whenever I'm like a 500 milligram a day girl minimum, that was very, very difficult for me. So I didn't struggle with like the withdrawal headaches like some people say that you do from caffeine. I was just tired all the time. And I have never been someone to nap a lot. I was napping, and I'm barely coming out of it now, but 2 to 3 times a day. Like I would wake up, respond to emails, do some work, have breakfast, take a nap. Get up, do some house chores, finish some work, take a nap. Go to the gym, shower, take a nap. Like I was so exhausted. It's just like you can't even get your brain, sorry, I have the hiccups because I'm excited. You just can't even get your brain to function properly. It's like this fog because there's not enough energy to continue higher level thinking, I guess. So I was struggling. So another reason I don't want to talk on camera because you can tell that I'm already like, la, 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 la. And this is me allegedly coming out of the brain fog. So I started feeling nauseous probably around 8 weeks. And I forgot to mention at the first ultrasound, everything was perfect, but I was actually measuring a week behind what they thought, which is normal. It can just mean that you ovulated later in your cycle. So they updated my due date about a week. And of course at the time I was like, no, like I finally made it to 8 weeks. I've been waiting for so long to make it to 8 weeks and I'm back at 7 weeks. And I was just like, are you kidding me? I was so ready. Like I had been counting down on my little app, my tracker, and I was like, I need to just get past this milestone because that's whenever we had our miscarriage last time, is in the seventh week. So I was like, just let me get to 8 weeks and I will feel so much better. And to reset it almost and be like, all right, you're going backwards a week. I was like, are you kidding me? It felt like the biggest setback at the time. And of course now I'm like, well, it was an extra week, but I was like, I gotta relive this whole thing, like watch the same little videos on my app of the baby is the size of a soybean, like whatever. I just want to graduate from that, and I did, but it felt like a lot. So Whenever I actually got to 8 weeks, it was very marked with my feelings. Like I knew, I was like, okay, this is a more significant change. And I fortunately don't think that I had severe morning sickness. I had severe queasiness, but I wasn't vomiting as much as I've known some women do, which is very, very lucky for me. I did not enjoy the queasiness. It's like a general, I had, first of all, horrible heartburn all the time, just like this feeling in your, it feels like you're gonna throw up all the time. And then just queasiness, like car sickness, a little bit of a headache, just feeling kind of, like it feels like that. I don't know, when you're driving home and you have car sickness and there's like sun shining in your face at the worst angle and you're like kind of hot, but you're like, I'm gonna throw up, I just need to get out of this car, I wanna lay down, but you kind of have the spins. That's how it felt for most of this first trimester. And it's been easing up a little bit. I finally started feeling better probably like 2 days ago, which is why I'm making this video, because so many points during this, like after this first ultrasound, after my second ultrasound, after all these rounds of blood work, like after everything, I'm like, okay, I could start filming this week. And then I just have felt so bad. So eventually I was like, I'm just gonna wait until the first trimester is pretty much over. Hopefully I'll start magically feeling better by then, and then I can make a little video. And even at that point, I had considered not doing it, but this is just something that's so special and so exciting that I don't wanna just leave it. And I've had the blessing of so many people that I've felt community from and have prayed with me and for me, and I know that are on this journey as well on their own. So I just wanted to make this video almost for myself. Like I've waited for 2 years to be able to post this and say, I'm 12 weeks pregnant, and here we are. So I'm making the video. Originally, back whenever I was, blissfully naive about pregnancy, I thought that this first trimester would almost be like, okay, this is my last chance to like be hot. This is my chance to continue wearing my little crop tops and my spandex to the gym and wear my cute outfits, and no one will know I'm pregnant because I won't be showing yet. So this is my last time to like make cute outfit videos and just like maximize. Like this is my last like 2.5 months of really knowing, like of normalcy, I guess. And I could not have been more wrong. First of all, because why would I even be thinking about those things whenever I'm wrought with anxiety over this pregnancy? And I say wrought with anxiety, I feel like I surprised myself with the peace that I felt, which, thank you, Jesus. But it's still very difficult to take your mind off of. So even if I felt like as peaceful as I could in this sea of unknowns, I still felt very distracted. So I couldn't just think like, oh, I want to make this outfit video. I couldn't process it. And this is also a very weird time for me because I had a social media boom pretty much the week I found out I was pregnant. So the day I found out I was pregnant, I hit 10,000 followers on California. Los Angeles is literally calling me. Wow, I'm such a star. That's crazy. Whoa, no one cares. Anyways, I hit 10,000 followers on TikTok and then Instagram shortly thereafter, and I had been doing this workout series that is kind of contingent on me being able to do crazy aggressive workouts. And as you can imagine, I did not feel like doing them for very long in this pregnancy, but I was like, I feel like I got to because I really wanted this to happen, and now it did happen, and I don't just want to be like, oh cool, I finally hit my social media goal, now I'm just done. So I tried to continue those workouts as long as I could, and I give myself major kudos because I have batch filmed like 2 or 3 workouts a day for 2 straight weeks, and I had tried to film a couple since then, and the bloating for one, I was like, for my own health, cannot look at myself. Am I being dramatic? Probably. But after being someone who was very proud of their fitness and just having this like almost uncontrollable level of bloat out of nowhere, it's very difficult to then look at yourself and be like, oh yeah, I still look great. Okay, I'm rewatching this clip while I'm editing, and I am obviously in the exact same spot because if I don't edit this now, I'm afraid I will fall back into my first trimester hibernation and not do it. So I'm just excited to be able to post this in a few more days. But I want to say I didn't finish what I was talking about because I all of a sudden was queasy and had to get a snack. But on that note, it wasn't just about my physical appearance. It was about like how rapid the change was and not feeling like I had a solid pregnancy to be excited about yet. So like now I don't care at all. Like I feel so happy with the little like half bloat, half bump that I have. But at this point in time, whenever my body started changing, I had gone from like feeling like I was in the best shape of my life and feeling so proud of how I looked. And I also want to add that fitness was almost like my crutch during all of this sadness. And it was something that I was like, well, I can't get pregnant. You know, I'm struggling to get pregnant, but at least I'm in the best shape of my life. At least I have a six pack. At least, you know, these things that are so superficial, but they really did help carry me through kind of emotionally and give me this like, well, all these other girls are, you know, beautiful, fertile, feminine moms, but at least I can do 100 burpees, you know, like it was this way that I helped compensate. So I felt like in the point that I'm talking about in the video that I was kind of between two boats. So I was like, I feel like I'm not in the best shape of my life anymore, this thing that has kind of carried me through for the longest time. But I also feel like I'm not securely in this pregnancy because it still felt so new. So I think that's why I was struggling so much. Because yes, I had had this change that felt earlier than I was anticipating. And would any other person have noticed these changes as significantly as I did? Absolutely not. But at the time, it was more of a mental thing of I'm not rooted in this identity that I had before, which was fitness, but I'm also not really able to be so excited about motherhood yet, if that makes sense. So that's kind of where I was at in the fitness realm. Also, I just did not have the energy or just the capacity to film these workout videos because they're so intense and I'm modeling them after these superhuman people. And whenever you feel like less than human because you're just so sick and dizzy and like your heart rate is just out of control all the time. Like I'm in zone 5 just talking. I'm like, I can't make adequate workout videos right now. So I just kind of took a pause on that. So I'm hoping that I can maybe do a few more once I announce, and maybe people will be okay if I'm like a little visibly pregnant, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But I wanted to just chime in and give you this little note because I didn't finish explaining. I might have other editing notes, so stay tuned. I forgot what I was talking about. I had to get another snack. So thanks for bearing with me on my next pause. Okay, so I feel like I've been in this hibernatory cave for 2.5 months because we found out pretty much like before 4 weeks. Like I think we found out as early, well, we did obviously because the day before there was no line, the day after there was a line. So I found out quite literally the earliest that I possibly could, which has meant that this first trimester has not flown by. And I have this like overwhelming gratitude and joy at being pregnant, which I think makes it easier to offset a lot of the symptoms because I would feel a lot worse if this was not something that I had like prayed and cried and wept for years. But it's still, even with all those things considered, it's still a challenge. And I have to remind myself that it's possible to be grateful for this pregnancy, but also still struggle with this pregnancy. So I'm not going to be disappointed that this first trimester is coming to a close. I'm very ready to feel like myself again. And even just these like little bursts of energy that I've been getting have been like such a blessing because it's just so disheartening. Like whenever I wake up in the morning and I just don't feel like myself at all. And even trivial things like I wake up and even if I work from home and I know I'm not going anywhere, I'll do something with my hair, not like heat with it, but I'll do something cute with it. Maybe put a little bit of makeup on just so that every time I walk past the mirror, I'm not like, ugh, just to feel more put together. And when I go to the gym, I like to have just like a little bit of makeup on just for my own peace of mind, I guess. I don't know. So there are so many little things that I would do previously or like put a cute outfit on like this. Like I'm wearing a sweater and like soft pants. I'm not dressed up in the slightest, but I'll take the time to like put my little earrings in. Not this first trimester. Like I would roll out of bed in a big t-shirt and just like anything that's not going to squeeze my stomach because it just gets so bloated and so tender that you just don't want anything around it. Or at least I personally did not. And I'm like, what's the point in getting cute? Like I had to stop using one of my foundations that I love because it has perfume in it. And just like the scent of this perfume, even now makes me want to gag. And I don't even feel nauseous right now. But there's so many things that I feel like have gotten imprinted with the nausea of the first trimester that I'm like hoping and praying that I will be able to enjoy again because I love them so much. Like certain perfumes, certain makeups, certain candles in my house, even the show, The Summer I Turned Pretty. See? I love that show, but I've been watching it during the first trimester exclusively. So every time that I've watched it, I have been so sick and just felt so bad. So now the thought of watching it or just like the memes that I see, it almost is like filled with nausea. And so I watch it and I see the characters, I'm like, ugh. So I've also been conscious of that. I'm like, well, I don't want to use any of my fun media or like I don't want to taint anything that I really enjoy by watching it while I'm sick. I don't know. But I'm finally coming out of it. You can tell how bad it was because we had bought this concert pass to like 15 concerts in our area this year, and I missed 6 of them because they were right in the middle of this first trimester, and there were so many that I was like, I really want to go, but on the same hand, I don't want to go at all. Like the thought of seeing people and getting dressed up and being in the heat, like it just, the heat is not compatible with nausea. And I quit laying out whenever I started to feel sick because I was like, I just being hot. I also was worried about the baby, like I don't overheat, but being so ill and then just forcing yourself to sit there and sweat, it's like there's not any part of that sounds appealing to me. So that's another thing that takes like a mental toll that's so trivial, is like you're not really getting dressed up, you're not doing a whole lot just to better yourself on the daily, and you're losing your tan. Obviously I can't get Botox, and the timing worked out just so that my Botox was like almost worn off by the time I found out I was pregnant. Like I think I would have been due to get new Botox the following week. So I should have just gone early, to be honest, like before I was pregnant. Didn't know this was gonna happen though. So now I'm pretty much fully worn off, and I'm just like, okay, don't make crazy faces, which I'm prone to. So I will be missing the Botox, and I know I can go get a spray tan, but I've been so nervous about the smell because you can't get it off whenever it's on. And the smell truthfully does not bother me on a normal time, but the smell of everything has bothered me. Like I even had a day that I was almost sick because of my own laundry detergent smell on my clothes, where I was like, I can't wear any of this. So that was a challenging day, but I do feel thankful that I haven't been very sick. I've thrown up a few times, and a lot of it's had to do with like car sickness. Like I struggled whenever we went on our trip to DC a couple weeks ago. I'll put some pictures in of like how miserable I was that I just didn't post, obviously. But in Ubers, getting car sick, like I struggle with that, and also just not really being as in control of your own meals, because whenever I'm home, if I start to feel a little queasy or a little sick, I can snack very easily. It's not that big of a deal. But whenever you're with a group of people and you're not always around restaurants or like easy food, I always had granola bars and like little hard candies that called Preggy Pops that are like supposed to help ease your nausea. But there's just some things that you can't ward off. So I've thrown up a few times, and I've not really enjoyed any of those times, but I've learned that it's better when you start to feel queasy to snack, which is like the exact opposite of what you want to do. You want to like sit down and drink water and just lie in the cold, dark room. But you have to eat something, and especially eat something when you first get up, because it just helps to ward off the nausea. So now I snack like probably every hour, hour and a half. And I don't know, I track my food intake, which I can make a whole different segment on like how my diet and fitness has changed. I do track my calories, basically. Like I don't, part of it's to make sure I'm eating enough, and part of it's to make sure I'm getting enough protein. Like it's not really a dietary thing as far as like my physique, but it's more so because my diet previously was kind of contingent on me being a super high calorie burner in the gym. Like I would burn 700-800 calories a day just because my workouts were so intensive, and I'm obviously not doing that anymore. So I just want to make sure that I'm adjusting to this new expenditure by not continuing to eat at the level that I was before, which, you know, was based on how much I was burning, but also not undereat because I want to maintain enough nutrition for the baby and so on. So I just track it so I can be more mindful, and it's not something that's triggering for me personally, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for everyone, especially in pregnancy. You have to eat what you can eat, but I haven't had crazy aversions. I don't like coffee right now, which is devastating for me, but I have faith that it will come back. But that's one of the things that very early on just stopped tasting good to me whatsoever, and I was drinking decaf anyways, so I quickly was just like, it doesn't matter. I think I'm going to start trying to reintroduce a little bit of caffeine in the second and third trimester, just so that whenever I am done being pregnant and I have the baby, I'm not all of a sudden just like slamming coffees and making myself sick. So probably I'll do a little bit here and there. My caffeine intake will not be as extreme as it was previously. So those are my main thoughts. I've had, all things considered, a good first trimester. My blood work has been predominantly very strong. There's been a couple like adjustments, like I've taken extra vitamins and things, but everything has been like beautiful. I've had 3 ultrasounds now. They've all been amazing. At the last ultrasound, we got to see the baby moving around and just use their little arms, like almost like a boxer. And that was the most precious thing I've ever seen. I can't feel anything yet, obviously. They're too small, but it's like surreal to hear the heartbeat, to see the movement. And now I've had so much confirmation. I think for the longest time, I was like, this isn't really happening. This is too good. This is too exciting. Like, I just can't let myself be this happy almost. And now I finally feel like we're at the point, like I'm at 12 weeks. I've seen this baby 3 different times in the ultrasound. We've had so much blood work done. And I am as confident as I'm going to get at this point. So that's why I wanted to make this video. I'm just so thankful, and the anxiety has probably been the most taxing part of this first trimester, but God is good, and I have had more peace than I know that I have produced myself, so that's much appreciated. But overall, I'm much more at ease going into this next trimester than I was previously, and I just want to remember this. So whether or not this is a video of mine that like does numbers, or you know, whether or not people unfollow me, because if I followed somebody for their cool high interval workouts and then they got pregnant immediately, I'd be like, girl, what? This is not why I followed you. So I do want to return to those, and I will probably honestly keep posting fitness videos, just more related to my current health situation, but we'll see. I'm not putting any pressure on myself content-wise, but this is something that I want to remember, and I've been keeping a little pregnancy book, but that's something that I also kind of struggled with at the beginning because I was like, I don't have to throw this away. Like, I just had so many intrusive thoughts that were just damaging to my mind, and I finally was like, no, I'm going to fill out as much of this pregnancy book as I can. And you know what? If this pregnancy is not meant to be and I don't get to meet this baby, I will still have this as a reminder of what was a happy season while it lasted. So I've been filling out my pregnancy book. It's full of all these little ultrasound pictures and lots of notes of just not feeling very well, but I'm so thankful for it. And I'm excited for this new journey to get to share with anybody who cares to listen. So I'll put little photos and everything sprinkled throughout the video so that you guys can kind of a visual walkthrough, since it's just been me chatting the whole time. But I'm hoping that I can come up with more regular videos and not just do like trimester updates. So now that the secret's out, I'm pregnant. We are having a baby in the spring. I could not be more excited. And thank you to everyone who has prayed for us and supported me on this journey, and anyone who's walking through this, whether you have gotten your rainbow baby or you have not, or you just are waiting to get pregnant for the first time, just know that my heart is with you. I would not wish the difficulties of this journey on anyone, but even in the short time that I've gotten to feel the joy of what looks like this will be our rainbow baby and our successful pregnancy, I can say it's 100% worth it. It's like I can't even remember the devastation. I'm just so thankful to be where we are. So thank you to Jesus for that, and thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more. I plan to hopefully start posting more regularly now that I'm ready to re-enter society. So thank you guys. Bye.